Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel for another ACCA video and tips today. And the main question I've got to ask you is, have you got a computer-based examination for ACCA coming up? Well, if the answer to that is yes, you're in the right place, because today I'm going to take you through, from my experience as a student and a tutor, what I would recommend for you to revise and prepare for your ACCA computer-based examination the day before the exam. For me, an absolutely critical time, and following these 5 tips that we'll go through today could make the difference between you passing your exam, which for me will be fantastic. That is the reason why I run the actual YouTube account. It's completely student-led. Lots of you guys have been contacting me saying it'd be really good to hear your thoughts of what I should do the day before. How would you structure it? Well, I'm going to take you through it today. That is the main thing. But if you are actually new to the channel, feel free to subscribe as ever. The button should be down below. If you have found this video helpful, feel free to give it a thumbs up or leave a comment below what you actually thought of it. And are there any other videos you'd like me to cover as well? But today's main focus is, if I was doing a computer-based ACCA examination coming up, what would I do the day before? Now obviously there are some assumptions here that you've already done some revision and you've actually already got some materials. It's not a case of you can actually revise for this day before and you'll be completely fine. So I'm going on the basis of you've gone through some bits of work, some revision notes, and you're just looking for a bit of structure on that day before that could be the difference between taking you over the edge and not getting one of those awful numbers of 47, 48 and 49. But we don't think of those. So I think we should get stuck in, start to go through them now. So fundamentally it's going to be how your day should go. So I'm going to take you through the points, start of the day to the end of the day, and you can take these as you must. This is what I would be doing in that situation. So fundamentally, number 1, question practice using the software. So you can actually go onto ACCA's website. There are study resources on there, so you can pop it in on a search engine from ACCA's website directly found on there. They are free as well, some of them are. Find your module, and actually you need to actually learn the processes of how it operates, and hopefully you've done this beforehand in the weeks leading up to it, but especially the day before, just to get yourself re-familiar with it. Doing these in the morning, question practice as well, to time, and always first thing in the morning where you've got the most amount of energy. For me this was fundamental and I got the most out of it as well. I would also recommend, from my experience, I never used to do a full past paper upon the morning of the actual, the day before the examination. Because for me personally, they should have been done in the weeks leading up to it. I only did sort of maybe 2 or 3 questions on the software that I'd recommend here. The reason for that is because you might actually find, and I found this when I was doing one of my actual financial reporting examinations, and especially the audit, I felt really lethargic the next day after doing a full paper. So by actually limiting a bit, I found that actually leading into the exam day, I've got a maximum amount of energy and I can really get stuck in on that exam day, and not to feel a bit laggy or anything on those lines, or feeling that my mind's a bit overwhelmed from the day before. You really don't want to feel fatigued on it. But the reason for actually using the software is all about learning the processes, how it operates, what sort of step-by-steps there are as well, and getting familiar with how it's marked, how it's calculated, and how you show your workings. These are all fundamental, as you've got to be aware that there'll be loads of students who've never done one before. So this is all new territory for students, and it's all about getting as best you can familiarize with it. So understanding that the actual calculators are on there, or where the formulas can be found if you have those in your actual paper, PV factor tables, also just where you put your answers. So for example, if you actually put question 3's answers in question 2's box, you don't get marks for those. If you actually leave things in the scratch paper on there as well, they don't get marked. It has to go in the Excel box or the actual Word box as well for the mark to follow. So this is really fundamental. Put it in your notes as well, and this is the fundamental thing, number 1, I'd be doing first thing in the day. Along with the tip here of set your alarm at the time which you're going to be waking up on the exam day, and do it the day before, so that your body gets into a custom of waking up at that earlier time, getting yourself ready and prepared, and also you should hopefully get to sleep earlier that evening as well. Probably feeling a bit tired, but that is the first thing. question practice using the software. Get yourself familiar with it. That is paramount and fundamental for me if I had to do a computer-based exam tomorrow, and this is the plan I had to do today. Number 2, again, another fundamental thing, leading on from, we've now done some practice paper questions on the actual software. Number 2, preparation is key. So I'm thinking now, well, I've been focusing a lot in the morning, I've done some practice questions, now I'm on to the sort of preparation in terms of setting up my computer and the tabs that I've got available for the exam day. Because as ever, if you fail to prepare, you've got to prepare yourself to fail. The reason why I say this with a computer, there'll be loads of people out there, yourself probably included, so it's worth checking your actual task manager on your computer. What softwares have I got open? What other things have I got running on the computer? I'd hate for the computer to crash during the examination because you've got other areas uploaded. Make sure your emails are all shut off and work. You want 0 distractions going into your examination when it's actually focused on the computer-based examination, so your eyes are on the prize and you can just focus on that one task in hand, and that is passing your examination. The next key thing for preparing your actual system and work area is the actual Wi-Fi connection and the other users in the household. So there'll be other laptops, phones, as well, potentially TVs and other devices. Make sure they are all turned off. Let your other people in the household know that you're going to be doing the exam when the time is, and also fundamentally make sure they're aware of it as well. That is incredibly important, especially making sure your phone is off. The last thing you want is any allegations or anything on those lines to say that another person was helping you out, or if there are any legalities in it in terms of some corrupt argument for it in terms of your script or how it's been invigilated. Make sure they're aware, phones on aeroplane, another room, out of sight, out of mind, and again, you can just focus on the task in hand and passing your examination. Stay focused on it. The next thing is, on this actual revision day, the day before, and I'd also recommend this in the weeks leading up to it, work out where your working environment is so that you're in the space that you know when you sit down in that environment you are comfy, and when you are there, that is a working environment where you only focus on ACCA, revision notes, and that is it. So that you psychologically know when you sit down in that area, your full focus is on passing that examination and getting the most out of it. So that is where you go into a kitchen, that is an eating environment. If you go to the gym, well, for some it's a workout environment, but your seating area, your working environment, make sure it's cleared of all distractions. No photos on the wall, as you can see in here. I didn't actually do that in preparation for this, I'll let you aware of it. But make sure there are no notes on the table or anything on those lines once the exam's going on. And just make it so that you're just focused on the task in hand and you've got the best possible chance of passing. That is paramount for me. So that's the actual working environment. Then making sure your MyACCA, your loading dock or your login credentials, identification, the process of what you're going to have to do on the screen as well beforehand, it's all good to go. That is again fundamental to lower that anxiety on the exam day. Could be your first computer-based examination, and all of these things will reduce any anxiety, any stress levels. It will make you have a better night's sleep the night before, and all ravels into the package of you doing your best on the exam because you are preparing yourself. Finally as well, letting the other members of your household know what time your examination is. If you do it in an area such as this, put a note on the door like I do for these videos to say that a recording is in play so that no one comes in and is distracting, no one's in the environment, and potentially other things such as at your door as well, putting a note to say the exam's there so no one's ringing the doorbell, and also of course phone in another room, it's out of sight, out of mind, on aeroplane mode, and there is no way of any cheating or anything on those lines going on, so it's completely fair and there are no allegations against you. Paramount. You would not want your phone to be going off for you to be doing the exam and then to say it be completely void and you have to resit it again. Little things make a massive difference. It'll lower your anxiety and you'll overall be prepared better for the exam, in my opinion. This is what I'd be doing. So that's the second part of my day, as a little bit of a gap from actually focusing on the software. I think that's really helpful there. Then after that, you've got to come on to actually the actual next point on here. So point number 3. Again, this is not going to come up in a sort of guru thing or anything on those lines. This is all from my experience that I used to do before every examination, the day before, and that is saying to myself simply, what do I think is going to come up on the exam? What do I fancy? What am I going to have a punt on? Deep breath and go, yeah, I think that's going to come up. Okay. The reason for this, and the reason why I seem to find it worked quite nicely, is you're backing yourself, you're going on your knowledge, your experience, and you're saying, well, I'm going to actually put time, effort into this, and it's amazing how your mind focuses, because you're actually being honest with yourself and saying, I've got a good chance, I think this is going to be coming up. So you've got to be careful though where and what your process is with this. So I would say I'd only pick 2, maximum 3, depending how you're getting on for time throughout the day with this, but you've got to be specific on those areas. So if it's a financial accounting examination and I don't know, something on those lines, that ratios has been a key area in the past, focus on that as one of your topic areas. Formulas, how it's processed, what are the workings. Same with potentially with a tax exam. Maybe inheritance tax or income tax has come up in previous years. Focus on that area, back yourself, and fully focused on that specific topic. Where are you going to get these topics from? Well, for me personally, there are key areas not to overlook. First of all, and again, if you've got a pen and paper, this is really important, overlooked, are the external examiner's reports. Maybe have a look through the last 2, maybe 3, and see, are there any similarities in different areas that keep coming up. Pick one of those. I would say that is going to be fundamental. These are the people that mark the exam, they know what comes up on the exam, and they know where students make mistakes on the exam. So I'd say pretty good place to start. And I used to do it all the time with my revision, especially the day before. But I used to always look at them weeks in advance as well, so don't overlook that resource. Secondly, ask your tutor, what notes have you got down if you've had face-to-face or online lectures. Remember, they've been doing this longer than you have. They've got lots more experience in terms of it. Have a look back on your notes to see if they highlighted anywhere in particular that was paramount to look into as well. That would be definitely one thing. And thirdly, discuss with actual classmates on those lines, but I'd always be cautious on that in terms of, well, maybe don't go on someone else's judgment in case they've picked up on one random question that was an odd topic. You know, these things happen. I'd rather, in my own words, I'd rather back myself from going through my own past paper analysis, going through the questions top to bottom, and potentially I've seen that it's come up maybe income statement, balance sheet, income statement, balance sheet. Okay, well I'm pretty sure one of those 2 is probably going to come up. So they're going to be 2 of my areas that I'm going to be focusing my time on. And as always, if you're backing yourself, you're putting that focus in your own ability, you'd be amazed how much concentration you have going into it and how much more you're going to be picking up, because these are the things that you think are coming up the next day, and you're going to retain that information even better, I would say. So this tip number 3, have a punt, back yourself, and think just what is going to come up. So now we're progressing throughout the day, and now I'm thinking to myself, and we've all been there in that situation, you're getting a bit laggy, a bit lethargic, been up early, you've been focusing on the task at hand, looking at the computer. Question, or point number 4 now is, how to review your notes. So this is one thing where I know, as being an ACCA student in the past, now a qualified member, I know that you'll be in this situation as well. You'll have piles and piles and piles of notes and folders and sort of any other things that are lying around, notes or anything, how you've been going at it. Okay, so you've got, try to picture it, you've got all of these notes, or you can look around, you can probably see it in your office or on your floor. But then you've got to be thinking, well, okay, how am I going to take that information that I've been working on and actually put it into practice so it's going to benefit me tomorrow for game time for that exam? Well, as ever on the channel, with a budget of naught, and also from my experience, this is what I always used to do. And it's as simple as this. Take a piece of paper, put some bullet points down the side, and just put at the top, what did I not know? So this is where it really focuses your mind to say, well, looking through my notes as I go through it, what did I actually write down that I didn't get right or didn't quite understand? And the rule is you just bullet point it down and write it on one line and one line only. By doing this, you can actually use those notes throughout the day, bullet pointing down anything that you actually thought was important, and it's a really good tool for actually revising things you weren't particularly good at as well. I must state as well, in the examination you've got to write in sentences and paragraphs. The bullet points are there for a reason, because they are short and sweet, nice and easy to remember, and the technique with that sheet of our budget of naught is that I would use this sheet throughout the actual day, on the last day, writing down anything I didn't know. I'd then also read that to myself just before I went to bed, because from a mindset perspective and a psychological perspective, studies show that you actually retain the last thing or last bits of information you've actually taken in before you go to bed the best as well. So I'd read it just before I went to bed, and also before the examination. I'd be going through them one by one. They're short and sweet, and I know I can get through it in five minutes or so. I've never one for all these chunks and massive bits of paper and huge calculations half an hour before an examination. For me, that really helps, and I can tell you now, it built up the marks over the years, and it has come in benefits so much. So use that technique and let me know how you get on with it as well. So use the bullet point technique on there. Other ways of doing this are flashcards or actual pocket notes are very helpful. So some providers actually have these as well that you can buy. The reason for these is they're short and sweet. You can annotate those notes and put it in a language that you understand best. That is how you're going to benefit the most, because as always with ACCA exams, the more you put in, the more you're going to get out of it. That's it. So take what they've given you and actually say, well, I actually understand that a bit better if I word it in this way. And before you know it, this starts to build up. And just before the exam the next day, have a look through the flashcards, have a look through the flick notes, because what are we saying? An hour or two before your actual examination, you're not going to be going through a massive 25-mark question, are you, from top to bottom? That is not an effective way of using your time, because as I always advocate on the channel, it's a case you've got to work smarter, not harder. And using these techniques, you'll start to remember them even better. Other tactics I'll be using, and remember this is later on into the day, you're going to be feeling a bit more lethargic. So the reason for this is point number 4, is it's a bit more energetic, it's a bit more engaging, and also it gets your mind stimulated in different ways. So you can use highlighters, different coloured pens as well, so red pens to underline particular areas, blue pens, and also green to highlight short and sweet points within the text. And the reason for this is it's designed so that it stands out for you. That is the main thing, because these are sort of what I like to call trigger terms. So that if I could remember the trigger term or remember the actual item that it's referring to, by remembering that I could then elaborate on it and go off on and explain it and elaborate on it and analyse the point. It helped me to remind myself it a lot better. The other thing that I'd be highlighting or underlining in red or circling in blue or writing a note in green are standards that you can apply in various scenarios, or potentially ethics as well that always come up. Secondly would be key terms. So for particular modules, there'll always be key terms that you have to elaborate on. So pick out the key terms, make sure you've got those in your armoury, and then you can apply them effectively as well. Laws as well, there are particular laws, say for example with capital expenditure, revenue expenditure, you've got to be aware of, and also any other theories as well that potentially relates to financial management. Capital structure is a really good example of that. So that one is number 4 in terms of how to review your notes and how to do that effectively. Trust me, that is such an effective way of spending your time later on into the day when maybe energy is lagging off of it, and you're going to get the most out of it as possible. So that's number 4. Let's go on to number 5. And now I'm thinking later on into the day, number 5, and stay with me on this one. Number 5, where are the marks? Now, I know what you're thinking, and I can hear through my headphones going, James, what on earth are you actually going on about here now? Okay, and again, if you find this online, tell me about it. I'm sure the gurus of the world are saying these things, but this is what worked for me anyway, and I know it'll work for you. So give it a go. It's short and sweet, and you're gonna pick up on tips, because the problem here is we've got a computer-based exam, and we've gone from an actual pen and paper exam. So what you've got to do is take the techniques of the paper exam and apply them in a computer-based exam. Very overlooked, and I've not seen enough on this online, so I'll be definitely sure to do more videos on this. So the first thing is, go to the actual past papers and then go straight to the back and look at the mark scheme. The reason for this is it gives you a breakdown of where the marks are allocated, key terms on there, and specific areas which you are looking for. The reason for that is because you are looking to transfer the skills of that mark scheme into the computer-based examination. So what do I mean by that? Well, you've got to look at how that mark scheme can be applied to the computer-based exam. So first question is, would it go in the Excel box or would it go in the Word document? That's the first thing. Next thing you've got to ask yourself is, well, how am I going to put that into workings so that I actually get all of the method marks, show all the workings as well going through, and applying the own figure rule. So what I'm referring to here is if you've got a computation that you're working out or some calculations, you've got to think from the marker's perspective. You've got to show them top to bottom how you're working it through, how you come to your final answer, showing all your workings, and how you're going to do that in a computer-based situation. Can you do that to time? You've got to get effective at it and understanding how it's going to work and where the marks are allocated. So it's a really good way of actually implementing this so that you get the maximum amount of marks. The next thing as well is find out from that mark scheme how much relates to a particular area, because there are some things that just come up on every single exam, such as applying back to the scenario. You hear it time and time again. So going into the exam the following day, having that mindset of I've got a narrative question here, I've got a wordy question, apply to the scenario, refer back to, say, if we've got a technology company, I've got to take the requirement, apply it to the technology company, and actually be specific to it as well. This is a massive technique in ACCA where if you're going to answer generically, you're going to be looking at the lower marks, scraping away to get 50% on each requirement. But if you're being specific to the requirement and the scenario, you are going to pick up on the higher amount of marks and have a better chance of passing. Trust me on that. Next time you're doing the narrative questions, the examination, be specific to the requirement and you'll pick up on marks that you would have originally thrown away. Why do I say this? Because it works out. It just goes, think to yourself psychologically, you go, well, another mark there, another mark there, another half there, another mark there, and this is the tipping point that could take you from those 48s, 49s that don't even think about those numbers the night before, to getting over 50 plus, and you're going to put your heart and soul into it and you're going to pass and get through it. These are the little steps that are going to go such a long way to getting you there. In my eyes, so overlooked, but makes such a difference. So going to the actual mark scheme, finding out where the marks are specific to your exam, and that is going to be absolutely paramount. You need to be specific to certain facts, standards, rates. It all depends on what exam you're doing. So a tax exam is obviously going to be different to an audit exam. You're going to have to know the different areas of it, and some are just going to be absolutely paramount going into a tax exam, that you need to know the rates of income tax, corporation tax, inheritance tax, and how they are applied, and what sort of narrative areas come up. So that is tip number 5, where are the marks? Not to be overlooked. So, those are my 5 key areas of how I would plan out a whole day's revision the day before your computer-based examination, so you're fully set up on your computer, you've gone through past questions, you know the exam technique, you know the format, and you know how it's going to operate so that it benefits you most effectively. Well, I really hope that has actually helped you as well. Let me know how you actually get on in your examination. Feel free to put it in the comments what you thought of today's video. If you've liked it, give it a thumbs up. Feel free to share it with other students as well, because if you adopt some of these techniques on your final day before the examination, I really do believe that could be the difference that's going to take you into that pass area. As ever, feel free to subscribe to the channel. It's all 100% student-led, so if you've got any queries or any other areas you'd like me to go through, feel free to, again, to put it in below. I answer absolutely every single one of them, and I'll apply my experience to help you out as best I can. That is the main thing of the whole channel. Well, As ever, on that bombshell, best of luck with your examinations. I know you said it wrong. As ever, on that bombshell, I'll see you next time. Cheers!